So the ACT folks made some announcements recently in regards to what the test is going to look like over the next couple years. And there are some changes planned, and pretty significant that I'd say. Namely, with respect to what sections are required, how long the test is going to be, how many questions, how long the passages are, etc. I'm going to get into that in this video. I'll also give some thoughts on, I think, what the impact will be to students, how it'll change your strategy when it comes to whether or not you take the test, and how you choose between the SAT and ACT, as well as just overall whether it makes the test easier or more difficult. Because in some ways, even though the test might be shorter, it could make the exam a little more difficult for you. So we'll get into it in this video. Now, before we get into the in-depth review of that, just wanted to introduce myself and 5 Academy. My name is Shaheer. I'm one of the tutors here and founders at 5 Academy. What we do is help students improve their ACT scores as much as possible and as fast as possible in the shortest amount of time through these free YouTube videos, as well as content that we have on our website, both free and paid. So if you're looking for videos like this, but more advanced, more in-depth, and even more problems, kind of like what you see on our channel, be sure to check out A, the rest of our channel, as well as B, our website linked down below. There are free resources such as free tutoring there for you guys as well. All right, so let's get into the changes. What are the changes and what are the changes? So the first change is that the ACT science section is no longer a required part of the test. Rather, it is just an extension of the ACT exam, similar to how the writing essay section is an extension of the ACT exam. So the actual ACT will only consist of English, math, and reading, and those three will make up your composite score out of 36. So this means that instead of just taking the ACT two different ways, which is currently what you have the option of, right? You have the option of taking the ACT or the ACT plus writing. Now you'll be able to take the ACT or the ACT plus science or the ACT plus writing or the ACT plus science and writing. Okay, so 4 different ways to take the exam that you have the option to choose between. We also do know that the composite section scores will still be reported on a scale of 1 to 36. However, writing essay section, I believe, is still on a scale of 1 to 12. Make that 2 to 12, sorry. Now that's the first change. I'll talk a little bit about what the impact of that is gonna be to you guys, and again, how that makes the ACT exam more or less difficult in a little bit, but I do wanna go over the second change before I get to that. So the second change is that the test is actually going to get shorter. Obviously it's getting shorter because there's a science section that they are making optional, but even for the English, math, and reading, the ACT folks have said that there will actually be less questions, about 44 less questions in all. The reading and English passages will actually be shorter as well. And overall, if you look at the big picture and you compare how long it takes currently to take the ACT exam, which is 3 hours, and how long it'll take to take the exam in the future with just English, math, and reading, 2 hours. So you have an hour decreased in your core requirement that makes up your core ACT composite score. Now, the ACT folks also said in their article that having less questions would allow students more time to answer questions more thoroughly. Now, I don't know if the ACT is actually planning on changing their timing limitations as well, or if they're gonna leave the timing as is and just have less questions, because if that's the case, then students are definitely gonna get a lot more time, but they didn't really specify what the timing is gonna be doing on the test. They kind of just left it vague and said students would have more time to more thoroughly answer questions. We talked a little bit about the changes. Now, what does this mean for you as a student? What is the impact to you when it comes to deciding whether to take the online ACT exam or the in-person exam, to take SAT or ACT altogether, or to take neither of them, right? So how do you navigate this? Let's first talk about SAT versus ACT. So SAT right now is obviously made up of English, math, and reading, just like the ACT is. So that's the commonality between the two. Obviously, ACT just ditched the science section as far as a basic requirement. Now, the difference is that SAT, half of your composite score is actually made up of math alone, whereas the other half is made up of, they call it reading/writing. But on the ACT, now 1/3 of your score is made up of math. So if you're someone who's stronger in STEM and in math, you're actually kind of going to be at a disadvantage, because before on the ACT old format, your composite score is made up of half STEM subjects and half of kind of literature and English related subjects. So something to think about when it comes to when you are assessing your strengths and weaknesses. If math is only going to make up 1/3 of your score and you are a very strong math student and a weaker English and reading student, then the ACT is not really the best option for you. And that's if you don't take the science section. Now, if you do take the science section, obviously that's an additional area where you can improve and have that supplement your core ACT score. Overall, I see this as a drawback because if you've watched my channel for the last few years, you will know that I have consistently messaged to you guys that the science, in my opinion, is the easiest to improve. There's not a lot of skills it's testing you on. You can learn the graphs. They're kind of repetitive in terms of how they're formatted, and the questions are very repetitive. So perhaps what the ACT folks thought is, maybe this is not the best assessment of a student's actual skill, because you can really gamify and learn the section more easily than you can English and math, for example. I improved my science score by 15 points from a 19 to a 34. If I didn't have that section helping my composite score increase, then I wouldn't have got as high a score as I did. In my opinion, science is an asset to the exam. I don't like seeing it go out of the core score, but I can honestly understand why they did it, because it is the easiest to improve. And thus, it is not really the best assessment of a student's skill and college readiness if you can really just learn the test and prep it again and again and again. In general, when it comes to deciding whether or not you should take the ACT science section, it really just depends on what your schools require and what your schools need and what the typical student that's applying to your school and your major would do. If you're applying to a pre-med program, it would be silly to not take the science section, most likely. It might also be silly to not take the writing section, depending on, again, what the school requires. What the average student is doing, you want to exceed that and do better than that so that you have the best chance of getting in. Also, in general, taking as much as possible is obviously more difficult and more challenging than just taking 3 or 4 sections, right? That also shows proficiency to your schools that you're applying to. And in the admissions world, when you're applying to very competitive programs, you need anything to get you an edge. Those are my thoughts. Overall, I do think this makes the test a little bit more difficult, especially for me as someone who is more STEM interested and better at just math and science in general than I am at the English and reading subjects, especially when I was back in high school. But again, let me know your thoughts. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns with this approach and kind of what ACT is doing here, let us know. I'd be interested to hear. And obviously your opinions are kind of going to drive how I tutor students on this in the future, as well as you guys are the students that I tutor. So again, let us know if you have any questions, comments, concerns in the comments down below. If you're also interested in getting a free tutoring session with us, with myself, or with one of our other experts, as well as access to free online diagnostic quizzes, be sure to check out the5academy.com/free. We have it linked down below, as well as you will find there a few free math practice exams and I believe at least 1 English. So all that content is on our website. It's free. There's also paid content as well that you can pay to get access to, such as problem sets and videos for each and every skill on the exam. So if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in getting more one-on-one tutoring with us, just let us know. All of those programs are available on our website. It's been good talking to you guys. We'll see you in the next video.